All right. And we are sort of live. Lord Cognito here, iLore Podcast, defining Duke in the realm.
Thank you for interviewing me. I appreciate that.
You appreciate that. And who are these fine gentlemen in the realm of Gamescom LA?
I'm Ryan Warden. I'm the production director for Avowed.
And I'm Matt Hansen, the art director for Avowed.
So let's get right to the main event. Avowed. Obsidian, again, classic RPG Western feel. Very colorful, beautiful environments. Got a chance, me and Maddie both got a chance to play. Really excited what I play. So first thing off the bat, for those living under a rock who have not been paying attention, what is the premise of Avowed? And tell our audience what Avowed is.
So Avowed is an upcoming fantasy first-person RPG from Obsidian. So you play as the envoy from the Adiran Empire. So the Emperor of Adir has some... He's got some interests in a place called the Living Lands. And he also hears that there's a, wait for it, soul plague that is... plaguing the island, plaguing souls on the island. And so he sends you out to investigate. And once you get there, you start digging, and you find that the rabbit hole might go just a little deeper than you expected. It takes place in the world of Aora, which was first introduced in the games of Pillars of Eternity. Anything to add to that?
I think you nailed it.
Ha! Got it in one.
Before I pass it to you, one thing I noticed, again, the game is absolutely gorgeous. Like, a lot of colors, really vibrant kind of energy. And again, one thing I noticed, I felt like the extra time that was given, I felt, from the engine standpoint, it really moved well. So I went with a mage, kind of sorcerer build, had my grimoire, had my wand kind of thing. The first thing I noticed off the back was that there are more abilities with the grimoire that you can do that I almost had sensory overload with the amount of things that I could do. So for us mage lovers, the people who love the arcane arts, can you tell us other aspects about that class?
Sure. So, first off, sorry we threw you in the deep end. I promise through a normal organic playthrough, that stuff isn't so in your face. So first and foremost, there aren't actually classes in the game. So you can mix and match abilities from martial to magic and everything in between. But if you do want to go down that mage route, because it is super fun, one of the things that you'll find is a really useful tool for you are grimoires, which are magic spell books. You hold them up, they're offhand instead of a shield. You got a cool magic book. That's going to give you access to 4 new spells that your character doesn't normally have. And you can have multiple grimoires that you can swap between, like you got to in the demo. One of the fun things that you didn't get to play with is you can unlock the ability to imprint those spells from those books to your personal repertoire. So you can say, oh man, I really love that ability where I got to summon that spear. Don't really love the rest of what's in that grimoire. I'm just going to learn that one, throw it out, and now I'll have that at my disposal. So it gives you a lot of flexibility with how you want to interact with magic.
Yeah, that was really cool because there was like an ice spell ability, and I had like this defensive aura around me, which was really cool, kind of slowing and freezing enemies, stuff like that. I could talk mage all day, but Maddie, I know you have questions.
No, dude, you are good. This is your interview as much as it's mine. I had a question about the delay in general, right? Like when Xbox put it out, they were like, to create room for the backlogs. Now, in the spirit of transparency, I would also like to know where you guys benefit from this delay, if anything at all. You guys get X amount of months extra time on this game to work on it. What are you most excited about to like tighten up toward the run to the finish?
I think it's mostly around just the run to the finish. So the delay is wonderful for us because, oh boy, that is a crowded field. In the next couple of months, there are so many games that are coming out. And this allows us to move to a spot where Avowed can just shine. And I'm really excited about that. I'm really grateful to the folks at Xbox for allowing us that opportunity, because more people are going to be able to play it. And also more people are going to be able to play all the other games that are coming out over the course of the next little bit. And so we're just going to take that time, and we're going to make the game shine as best we can. Yeah. We're going to polish it and create as high quality an experience as we possibly can get.
Awesome. The other thing I wonder about is as you guys delay this, you got Kingdom Come Deliverance that moves right up next to you. So what was the initial feel when you guys saw like, oh, there's another fantasy game right next to us? Like excitement? Like, is there a competitive spirit that is born from that? I don't mean it in a tribalistic way. I'm more so genuinely asking, like, what's the feel when you see that sort of thing happen?
Yeah, sure. I view it as an opportunity, right? I think we're seeing kind of a renaissance with interest in fantasy and sci-fi. Typically nerdier stuff, the world is saying, actually, this is pretty cool, right? And so when we've got games that are releasing that are adjacent to us, I'm hopeful that it will just excite people to want more, right? They'll play our game and they'll go, oh, that Kingdom Come game, that's my next one, that looks fun, and vice versa, right? I think it just benefits all of us to get excited for each other and get to just open up more and more of the world to this style of game. And I don't know, it's nothing but opportunity in my eyes.
And also, making games is hard. The games industry is a really small industry. A lot of people know each other, and making games is really hard. And anybody who makes it to the finish line, that's just such a monumental effort. And then you get to put that out and get people to play it. So, mad props to them.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. I love that energy. Cog, back to you.
back to you, Matty. Yeah, I mean, I love what I'm hearing. Again, guys are allowed more time, get more development in the game, more polish. We all love that. We all appreciate that. One thing I noticed as a person who loves Obsidian games, companions, right? And having, I believe, a gentleman, Kai, what was his name? Okay, Kai. Yeah, Kai. And one thing that I appreciated off the bat was the dialogue system, because the thing that I really appreciated is not only he would interact during and interject when there was stuff to talk about, but also when I'm talking to main characters, it was like another godlike I think I encountered. Yeah, he looked like the Gold and Silver Surfer. I was about him. I like him. So basically, when I'm talking to him, he basically started. There was a brief pause. He went through a whole bunch of exposition about me and him. But then there was a box that said like X for like dialogue history or something to that effect. Yeah. And I really appreciate it, because most games have a ton of voice acting and then you lose context. And then there was also this almost like a glossary, so to speak. Yep. Tell me about that decision, because I really appreciated learning about the points I missed and also the world itself.
Yeah, so this was a big consideration of ours through a lot of the components of the game, right? We have a deep love for the Pillars of Eternity world for Aora, but we understand that CRPG is especially isometric top-down kind of stuff. It's a little niche. It's not for everyone, and we wanted to allow more people to get to enjoy this world that we love so much. But we also understand there's a lot of lore there. There's a lot of backstory, right? And so not only is it a great opportunity for people to get to kind of reread what they went through before they make a hard decision, which is great for all kinds of accessibility, your kid's crying in the back or whatever. It's like, what did he just say? But more granularly, people who don't know what Adra, it's our magical rock that transmits souls. If you don't know what that is, you can go, what the hell are they talking about? And we give you a freebie there, And there's a lot of that. We want to make sure that for fans of the franchise, this is still an engaging game for them, but it's not alienating to everyone else, and this was a great utility for that purpose.
Love the decision mind. It's really cool. The other thing is, a person who loves companions in games, I saw companion abilities that I didn't realize in combat. So I could have Kai, I could highlight. First of all, it was like a radial button, right? And then it would kind of like pause in mid-action. And then from there, I could tell him to do this, and it'll be some combination attack. Are there more of those type of abilities? Tell me about that whole system.
You want to? Okay. So first talking about the radial wheel. It's been really neat to see different people take different play styles with combat. I was watching upstairs with somebody who's just having a devil of a time with combat, and he would get his health bar just down, just about to there, and then heal up, and he just was having a really hard time, and then he found the radial button. And it was like you could just feel the energy just relax, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah. Gameplay is paused. Wait a minute, I found Kai, okay. And then all of a sudden, he was just rocking combat. And he would pause and just sort of take stock of the battlefield and say, okay, tactics-wise, I want to do this and this, and then give him that ability. Now, we also have those that are available to bind to the D-pad. So if you want to quick fire one of those abilities, no problem. And if you want to have a little bit more, I don't know, like moment-to-moment momentum in your combat experience, no problem. Just quick bind that to the D-pad. And if you want Kai to come in with Fire and Ire, which is one of his abilities where he kind of draws aggro on enemies, acts a little bit more as a tank. No problem. You can do that. Just quick fire that from the D-pad. each companion has what, four active abilities, and then you're gonna have to make some choices because there's only so many buttons. But you get to remap them to your heart's content.
Yeah, to add on to that a little bit, each of those abilities also has a series of upgrades that you can get that can very fundamentally change how that ability works. So you have, I'm not going to do the math. There's lots of different ways you can build your companions and combine them too. You know, Kai and Marius have, you know, different ways of synergizing than, you know, Giada and Kai might or whomever. And so finding good combinations of, oh yeah, Marius can, you know, do a crowd control here, and then I can have Kai do his thing, and blah, blah, blah. And then I can come in with this. It's so much of the game is about, you know, this idea of you're stronger together with your companions. How can you leverage them, you know, obviously in social situations like you were talking about, but also in combat in unique ways that feel like it's your, you know, your way of playing with them.
Maddie?
Oh, yes. Thank you. My question really on the companion abilities was when you were actually watching me play and you taught me how to get through like these spider webs, and it was like, we burnt them down. And I was thinking I saw an opportunity. I was like, this is a strong term, so I don't mean like brain stompers, but like, are there kind of puzzles, light puzzles, ways to navigate the dungeon, things to interact with? And if so, could you give an example? Because I have yet to see one.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to think of ways to do this without spoilers.
Sure. If it is spoilers, then I...
Okay. So you can absolutely do that, and there are different ways of approaching this. Let me give you a spoiler-free version. So one of the builds was a ranger build, and one of the abilities that we gave to the ranger build that we had available here today is called Shadowing Beyond, and you kind of like become invisible and unaware to enemies, and so you can kind of like sneak past them. And I just saw on Monday this really cool playthrough that somebody from our communications team was doing. I have played this build easy 100 times. And I had never seen this before. He used Shadowing Beyond. You know the beetle fight that just before you get you pick up the relic. So he had been fighting through a bunch of things, and he used Shadowing Beyond to just sort of bypass that fight entirely. All of the enemies were still there, and he just ramped up and got the relic. And I thought, oh, what a really cool way of using your abilities to sort of navigate the map. Surely, when he comes back from grabbing the relic, he's still going to have to fight these guys. No, because of what happens in the story, just for a very authentic, natural, story-based reason. Yep, that enemy encounter is dead. You can still find them and find evidence that they've died and say, that makes a ton of sense because of what just happened. And so not only can you do that with your companion abilities, you can burn through spider webs like Kai has, but you can use your own abilities to sort of circumnavigate the map in really interesting exploration ways.
Yeah, I mean, one example, and it's a hard one to spot in the demo, but you'll have noticed, like, there's those little guys on the wall. You can shock them, and they'll activate, turn on lights. We use those really heavily for, you know, any number of events where we want to script interesting action. So there's a few places in that dungeon where you can find those, zap them, and they'll open hidden doors, things like that. Some of them are a little harder to find, and so you got to kind of trace the conduit from the thing, you know, that you're trying to open and go, where is that thing? Oh, it goes behind that wall. All right, let's see if I can get back there somehow. And you find a little crack in the wall and you zap it and you're good to go. That's a pretty straightforward example of how we utilize that stuff, but it's a pretty robust tool set, and we've gotten to do some pretty enjoyable things with it.
On that note, one thing that I loved was discovering when I was playing. Number one, you guys already highlighted like developer directing gameplays. You were saying, and as you just described there, like there's a lot of options of approach, which I thought was awesome because like when I think of Obsidian, I think of how you guys allow that through dialogue. Like I can kind of silver tongue my way through anything, and the skills playing that. You still have that, but then on top of that, there were ways that weren't even marked in the quest log for me to approach things. Like someone had to literally tell me, like, oh, by the way. I'm forgetting the gentleman's name, but as you say, gold and silver surfer. Yeah. You could just piss this guy off by deciding to like turn on all these switches, and he just attacked me. Yeah, and he like I do it once, he's like, "Don't do that." And so I turn on the other one. He gets mad and attacks me, and I was like, "Wow, that was not marked. Like that was there." So I know it's tough to like to put a number to it, but like, how often is that in the game? And also, like, how difficult is that to do? Where you guys are like, "All right, we're gonna hide this thing." And like for me, I'm like, I don't want to like put myself in a pedestal. Like I'm a huge lover of your games, and I'd like to say I study them like a science. And I'm like, I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think to look for that. So if I'm not looking for it, I'm like, damn, that's gotta be scary for you guys to be like, someone just might straight up not see this. What's the excitement, or if there's any worry in that? Like, you know, we're doing something, they might not see it. Like, I think that's what defines your guys' games. Yeah. But I just thought it was so cool. I just want to know, again, like how often you put those in the game, and just how terrifying that may be.
Yeah, so we always start with a core, right? There's got to be a clean way to get through something. And once you've got that, you can just start stacking on top and stacking on top. And one of our core philosophies with this game, and just kind of an Obsidian philosophy in general, is embrace missable content. Yeah, we're going to pour our blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, and 90% of players are never going to see it. But that 10% that will, it's going to feel magical to them. Because they went, I did this buck wild thing, and I got rewarded for it. You know, and that's so important to us, and it's fun for us as developers, too. We have a really great relationship with our internal QA and our external QA. They're the most brilliant people on the team, and they come to us all the time, and they're like, you know what? I was going through this fight, and I saw this thing, and I kind of wanted to see if I could do X, Y, or Z. Could we get that in there? Could we figure out a way to make that happen? You know, we got the fight with the spider in the room that had the flooded floor, right? You might have noticed if you chuck a shot grenade in there, or you shoot it with your shock hand cannon, it starts to spark, right? Yeah. We've had so many times where it's like, hey, what if we put like a trap up top that can drop those grenades that fire sparks into the water, and like if players see it, they can shoot it with a pistol and just kill everything right away. Those kinds of discussions are always happening, and it's a really fun, dynamic part of our team, and just the culture of Obsidian in general. But the whole time you're like, but it's my baby, and nobody's gonna see it. So it's, you know, it's a little give and take, but at the end of the day, it's worth it for the final player experience.
I really just have one more, and I'll dish it back to you. Yeah, so for me, I love searching for, in like your guys' types of games or games of that style, is like the unique weapons and armor. Now, I believe I talked to you about it, about like the amount, but I just want to make sure it's on camera if you're able to share it. Just how many unique weapons, because I know there were a couple in the build, but like how many are there for players to discover around all of Aora?
Too many. I honestly don't know the number. It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. It's actually also a little inside baseball. It's a product of how our weapon system has evolved over the game. We decided that we wanted each weapon to feel a lot more unique, and not even unique weapons, but a sword versus a hammer versus an axe. And so as we decided to go deeper with that, we had a lot of surplus weapons visually that we went, well, looks like we've got some free real estate on uniques. Let's slap some cool abilities on those bad boys. And we've got rings and trinkets and unique armor pieces, and all of those contribute. It's a ton. I honestly have no idea how many there are, and I'm constantly surprised when I find new ones. It's so many. There's also a lot of art burden to doing that stuff, but I'm happy to do it. Like, and I'm not doing it. I'm just saying it should be done, and then significantly more skilled people are doing it for me. But yeah, there's a lot. I know that's not a helpful answer. No, but
it is good to know there will be a lot. That's a good number for me.
That sounds good. One of the things that really surprised me when I was playing it was also how tight the actual platforming was in the game. And you also surprised me. I didn't realize there was swimming in the game. That was really surprising. So I want to talk about that aspect, just the basic, traversal, right? Mm-hmm. Going up to something, clambering. I thought that was exciting. And then the other thing is, I want to double back what we talked about as far as choice and consequence. As a result of all these decisions that you make, talk to someone, hey, if I have a high, scholar skill or something like that, that's an option that's available. As a result of all these choices, does this now influence multiple endings and stuff? So I know too long-winded question. Platforming, and then obviously choices that could branch out. Because I really like what you said in reference to like building something in the game that only a small percentage of players will see, because we come from the Mass Effect era where I love that stuff, but I know from a development standpoint that has to be held. So I know long-winded questions on platforming and choice of consequence.
I can start on platforming if you want.
No.
By all means.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about with platforming is, certainly Obsidian is known for deep narrative and memorable characters, and our combat in Avowed is super good. It's an awful lot of fun. But one of the things that I think we can be really, really proud about in this game is the exploration in this game. And I think that's where our game just sings. Just letting people play and sort of say, I want to go over there. Now, I'm not talking about like Skyrim style where it's like I want to go Billy Goat up that mountain and kind of thing. But within an open zone region, being able to say, yeah, okay, I want to go over there, and finding that there's interesting nooks and crannies, and you can kind of jump up interesting puzzles, and you can get rewarded for doing that. One of my favorite things in the game happened really pretty recently. Early on in the game, there's this lighthouse. And like any good lighthouse, upstairs you see for miles. And so I had climbed to the top of the lighthouse, and I was looking out over the entirety of this open zone region. And you can hear the waves lapping at the shore below, and a little seagull flew by. Yeah, and the music swelled to the full beans mix, and I was like, oh man. This is going to sound hyperbolic, but literally just chills. Like the hair stood up on the back of my neck. And I think that's just endemic of that sort of exploration wanderlust, and the fact that it feels really good to explore in this game and to find interesting nooks and crannies and little bits of visual storytelling and environmental storytelling. It's all there for you, and folks are just going to love that.
Yeah, to tack on a little bit onto that, on the back end side, we really wanted to, after the Outer Worlds, figure out ways to innovate player movement. We're not doing anything real buck wild with it, but we're a small team relatively. But shout out to Colby, he engineered the hell out of it. And often we would find novel ways to break it and go to him. You want to do what? Okay, all right, I'll get on. And a few days later, it'd be functioning and fun. And I typically don't like first-person traversal in games, but I really like how it feels in ours. So it's been a big emphasis point on that. I don't remember what the other half of your question was.
Was choice and consequence.
Yeah.
Endings.
Oh yeah, endings. Yes. There are micro endings and macro endings. We're as we've alluded to, we're not a big open world. We've got open zones, and in each of those regions, they have their own unique regional story. They've got a community there that you're going to explore that region through and with, and the companions help give context for those stories. And there's very, very dramatic ways that those can end. I won't spoil anything, but you can really wreck some people's days. And you can also be their savior. And that's really satisfying. On the macro story, we have so many endgame slides, y'all. As the person responsible for getting them all made, we have so many, too many. It's, I'm not going to give an exact number, even though I do have an exact number on this, but there's more than 50 of these things that you're going to get to experience that'll react to what you've done over the course of the game.
I threw 50 out like, okay.
Yeah.
Now, to be sure, it's not going to play all 50.
Yes, yeah.
Maddie?
All right. I got let's see here, because you just hit me with so much. There was like questions flying through my head. There's one I want to touch on then. Obsidian's such a fascinating team to me because I love that I think you guys run things the ideal way when from my point of view. When I say that,
We affectionately call you guys the Black Rock of Xbox Studios.
Yeah. There's a lot of love, but I look at what you guys do, where you're a very big team overall speaking, right? By like employee number, but then you splinter off and do other things. So I'm always curious, like what the team size is for all of these different projects. So if you got a number, I'm just curious, like how many devs are on Avowed?
So we've got roughly, give or take, 100 full-time employees, Obsidian employees working on Avowed. But we've also got, an army of QA help, and there's localization teams, and there's art and all the numerous outsourcing teams and co-development folks that are helping us out. But really, I think we've got one of the bigger teams that Obsidian has ever had on a game. But also, about 100 people is not huge by typical game dev standards for a game of this size. So we're just going hard in the paint with all of the help that we've had from everybody who's digging in.
Right. Awesome. Last question, at least for me, was about the scale of these hubs. Like I love hub style games, starting with. When I was younger, Knights of the Old Republic was the one that really brought me into that. And I just love that style of design. I think you can just get so much out of it. So in the terms of scale compared to, let's say, the Outer Worlds, how would you say Avowed compares in size per zone? I know they'll vary, but just on an average.
I think it's pretty comparable. It's pretty comparable to the Outer Worlds. The regions are not small by any stretch of the imagination. Some are bigger than others, but I think the Outer Worlds is pretty comparable.
Yeah, just in pure square footage, it's very similar. I'd say we have a bit more density, but overall, you can expect. It's a game that's going to respect your time. You can kind of get through the core story pretty quickly if you want to, or you can take your time with it and stretch out that experience to 4, 5, 6 times the length if you want. I've had, I won't give hours because I've been told, hey, don't tell them exactly how much time you spent. But I've had playthroughs that were literally 8 times as long of other playthroughs. So there's a lot of variability in how deep you want to go based on how much time you can invest in it. Yep.
That's all from me.
Back to me. One thing I want as far as feedback and dealing with that, right? So when I remember seeing, me and Maddie saw Avowed initially, love what we saw, but I had to be honest. At the time, I felt the melee wasn't punchy enough. Now, since then, tremendous improvement. I will notice that when I, again, playing mage class, I was able to construct almost like a mystic fire staff thing, and I was like, I didn't know I could melee with the mage. So I was very impressed with that. Now, my question is in reference to where we are now. You guys got extra time, right? Are we done or we're still polishing? Because some feedback I would give is I would love it to be even more punchy. I want them to react a little bit more when I'm hitting them. And it was kind of, I don't know if it was the sound of the hit or I need a stumble animation. That would just be my only feedback because I love what you guys are attempting to do here. It's real special.
So obviously, the extension gives us that many more months to polish, which is huge, right? You mentioned audio. Audio is one of the last things we bring in, so it's going to get a lot better. You brought up also the initial trailer and it kind of being that's okay. That was a really intentional decision by us and a bit of a risk from a marketing perspective. We said early on to ourselves, we will show whatever the state of the game is when we need to put a trailer out. No smoke and mirrors. It's going to be what it's going to be, and we're going to surprise them. We're going to surprise them in the good direction. And that's really paid off for us in a lot of ways, not only because we've been doing that. It's been great, and that's awesome, and we're thrilled that people are liking what they're playing. But also it allows us to focus on that stage of development wholly. When you have to do a bunch of smoke and mirrors, dog and pony show stuff, it's a distraction from the final product. But also, it gives us some feedback, right? We can hear when people say, hey, the game's looking better, but also combat feels static. And we can go, cool, what does that mean? How do we break that down? How do we approach that and improve it? And a lot of it is considerations like hit impacts, making those more impactful, directional blood trails. That wasn't something we had before January, and audio obviously as well plays a huge factor in that. So,
no, awesome. Thank you for that because that definitely gives me more clarity as far as the development process and stuff like that. Now, I don't know if you could talk about this part right now, but I was curious about console performance, specifically the Series X. Can we talk frame rates at this time, or we're waiting a little?
Well, I'm probably not the best person to. Sorry, talking off mic. I'm probably not the best person to talk about that. We can probably. We can probably.
Yeah, nitty gritty of it, performance is one of the last things we figure out, right? We are core, and I think we've announced this elsewhere. We are core targeting 30 frames per second bare minimum. Like that's the expectation. It's a first-person single-player game. You don't necessarily need that 60 frames, and that allows us to get a lot juicier with VFX and lighting and all this other stuff. So it's a trade-off we opted to make relatively early, and we're really happy with that. I mean, the game's running pretty smooth for how visually dense it is, and that was always our goal. But as far as like a greater understanding of performance spec, we're still figuring all that out. It's one of the last things you do. So yeah.
Fair enough. Appreciate that. Maddie, any other follow-up questions on it? Yeah, look, we're super excited. Again, one of the most highly anticipated games coming from the studio. The color palette of this world looks absolutely gorgeous. The choice of consequences, as Maddie was talking about, just the different play styles, approaches. There's a lot going on here. And I also want to give you guys credit for enemy density. I was surprised by that and the amount of the fight, because them shamans were getting on my nerves and they was healing the boss. Teddy was laughing at me, but we ain't going to talk about that. But at the end of the day, I love what you guys are attempting to do. Anything that we didn't cover that you want our audiences to know about Avowed, what else we should be looking for as you getting down the final push next year to February is the due date?
I'm just excited to, not talking about all of the polish that we have. I'm just excited to bring this to as high a quality bar as we possibly can, and look for us in February, y'all. I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, we never know. We never know how a game's going to be received, right? And our team's a pretty junior team. This is my first big endeavor as art director. A lot of the developers on this team, this is their first game. And so there's a lot of that kind of light imposter syndrome of, oh, is it good? And being up there, watching y'all play it, watching y'all react to it, it's just like, yo, we did it. All right. And now I'm just like super jazzed, like I want more people in front of this thing. So I won't tell you what to love. I won't tell you what to take out of the game. I want that to be your thing, right? Everyone plays our games differently. That's how we make them. That's why we make them that way. I love character creation. That's not everyone's cup of tea. You can breeze through it if you want. You can take all the time in the world that you want on it, right? But I want to make sure that players can build the character they want to build, whether that be self-representative or just some fantasy that they have. So I put a lot of emphasis on that. That's my personal, I can't wait for people to get to play with character creation. But yeah, I'm excited to see all of the novel ways that players play the game and the surprising ways. Because I don't know, people do weird stuff with our games, and it's just so inspiring. Like, I never thought about that. Like, we gotta do more with that in the future. So yeah.
Awesome. We got the legends from Obsidian, Realm of the Dukes in the building, Realm of the Lords, highly anticipated game. And then also, again, we want to shout you guys out, from everyone over at Obsidian. The quality of the games you guys put out has been really exciting. This is definitely one of our to-do, must-watch games. So you heard it here first in the Realm. Any other final thoughts, Mr. Matty Plays? We are good. Obsidian, the Black Rock, Avowed, coming February. An absolute pleasure. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolute treat.